Okay, so here I am with my dad, Amiel Martin Rudolf, and today we're going to talk a little bit about his World War II experience. So we're going to recap just a couple things. First of all, Dad, when were you born?
April 30th, 1927.
Okay, so you graduated high school in Newark, New Jersey in 1945.
Right.
So then tell us what happened after high school.
Well, after high school, you went in the Army, you automatically went in the Army. When you're in high school, a couple months before you were drafted, they told you what day to report to the place where you got your physical and whatnot, the draft board, I guess. And they put me on a bus with a bunch of other guys, and we went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, for the first night. Then we got all our clothes, our shoes, and whatnot. And the next day they put us on a train, and I went to Fort Benning, not Fort Benning. What was the name of the fort we were at? Camp Wheeler.
In what state?
Georgia.
In Georgia. Okay, and on a train to Georgia.
Right, and it was like, I was drafted on the 8th, the war was over on the 11th. On the 11th, we were on the train in Philadelphia going to Atlanta, and all those people thought we were veterans and we're only in the Army for 3 days. But technically, I was a World War II veteran.
Right, because for 3 days you were
Right.
enlisted in the Army, and it was World War
Not
II.
enlisted, drafted.
Drafted into the Army. What's the difference between enlisted and drafted?
Oh, yeah.
What's the
Drafted,
difference?
they just picked you and you just went. You had no say in the matter.
No say in it.
You
And
just
if you were
went.
enlisted, it was your
Enlisted,
choice.
You voluntarily went in and signed up.
Okay. So you were drafted, and now you're on your way. The war is declared over. And that was when Japan surrendered, right?
Right on the 11th.
On the 11th of August,
I think it was
1945. I think that sounds about right. Okay, so then you're off to Wheeler.
Camp Wheeler,
Camp
we were
Wheeler.
there for 6 months, trying as an infantry soldier.
What was it like there?
I liked it.
You liked it there.
Yeah, I liked it there. I liked the Army life very much. They were disciplined and things were very good. The drill sergeant was good. I had no problem at all. I liked it, in fact. We learned how to shoot the guns and do what soldiers do.
Did you learn to like march and stuff?
Yeah, I liked marching. We took what we call bivouacs, went out and on maneuvers and whatnot. For 6 months, there's a lot of training.
Did you get yourself into pretty good physical shape, do you think?
I think so. You know, I was in pretty good shape when I went in.
Right. Pretty skinny, and
I was so skinny, and
did you get stronger?
I don't think so. No,
About the same.
I say the same.
Okay, so what happened after Camp Wheeler? After 6 months of that, what happened?
Well, they sent us to Europe.
To Europe.
Yeah. I went to
Okay.
Europe. They put me on a boat out of Jersey City, and it took 30 days to get to France.
Okay, so did you take a train from Camp Wheeler back up to Jersey City?
Yeah, yeah. And when I stayed home for about a day.
You got to
And then
a little
had to
leave?
report to another camp, Camp Shank, in New York, and from there they sent us to a port in New Jersey.
And do you remember the name of the boat that you went over on?
No, I don't.
And
It was a victory ship, though.
a victory ship. What does that mean?
Well, at that time they built a lot of cargo ships to get the material over to Europe, and they were called victory ships, but they're kind of small. They weren't, and they went on the victory ship and made it into a troop ship,
Okay.
and it was terrible.
It was terrible.
Oh yeah, it bobbed up down like a cork.
Oh,
And the sea was very rough because it was in the winter. And well, about honestly, 90% of the fellows are always sick throwing up.
throwing up.
It was a real rough trip going over. And it took
And
about
it took
a month.
30 days. Oh,
And the food was terrible.
it was terrible.
And all it was just a bunch of people on it. we had, our bunks were 10 high, 10 stacked 10 high, down in the hull of the ship.
Whoa.
And it was not very pleasant.
Not very pleasant. Now, I want to go back this is like a little bit before you ended up in the Army, but when you talked about the Victory ships, was that when we were doing all kinds of, we kind of got out of the Depression by making a lot of war equipment, the U.S., and these were the ships that maybe brought over the military equipment that we were making here in the U.S.
They're originally made for cargo ships.
Oh.
That's what they were, cargo ships.
And then they turned them into
used them as troop
ships. Okay, so you landed in France. Do you remember what the port was?
Yeah, Le Havre.
Le Havre. Okay, that's kind of, isn't that up kind of close to the English Channel? Like,
you can see the cliffs of Dover.
Oh, you could see the cliffs of Dover.
Yeah.
Was it kind of wild? I mean, this is the first time. I mean, you were a kid from Newark, New Jersey. You hadn't traveled much. Was it pretty wild to see Europe?
The only place we traveled was New York City once.
Once.
I don't think I ever went to Pennsylvania.
Whoa. So now you're all the way over in Europe. And was it kind of exciting in a way?
Oh, well, it was kind of boring, really. You usually waited most of the time. Everybody was sitting on a boat for 30 days. It's pretty boring.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, I didn't mind it at all.
Right. So then,
and when we got to France, they put us on a train in cargo in the boxcars.
You went in a boxcar.
Oh yeah, we were into the boxcar.
And was there any seats on the boxcar?
No, you just laid down.
You just laid, or how many guys?
It took us about a day or two to go to Marburg, Germany.
Marburg.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Marburg. Then for there, they assigned us to places all through Germany. All through Germany.
Yeah. And so how did
you didn't know where you were going to go?
You didn't know. And did you know what you were going to?
We stayed there about 2 or 3 weeks, and while we were there, we pulled guard duty, things like that.
Now, did you know what you were going to do when you went over there?
No, I mean,
you had no idea.
I knew I was going to be an infantryman.
You knew you were going to be
stay guard, probably guard.
Guard.
Because we went over as the occupation troops.
Okay. So
all we did was occupy Germany.
And so you guarded things for the Americans to prevent what?
When I was in Marburg, we used to pull guard duty. And I pulled guard duty on the one big square block, tremendous building. And they had all those papers in there that the Germans had. And Rudolf Hess was in that building. And but I stood guard on that building for about a week.
Now, Rudolf Hess wasn't there anymore. Rudolf Hess wasn't there anymore. He was in England by now, but all these important German documents.
It was his office.
And the U.S. was guarding them because they didn't want...
They were guarding all the documents that were in there.
Right.
The Germans had.
Now, were those like Nazi documents?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. Now, when you guarded, did you just kind of stand there with a gun?
Well, they stood there. The block would look like almost a half mile long.
Wow.
And I remember standing in the middle of the block. And you stood there with your rifle, and you had bullets in it.
Right.
And they said, your duty is to make sure that nobody stands on that sidewalk. If anybody's at that sidewalk, you're warning. If they don't go off, you shoot them.
Whoa.
So no one ever went on the sidewalk.
No one ever, they listened.
People walked to the street.
They walked to the street. Good.
I probably missed them if I had to take a shot at them. But we were there a couple of days.
Good. Now, all right, so what else did you do besides guard this building?
We were waiting for assignment.
Okay.
And one day they called us into a big stadium, and they started to assign people. You were going here, you were going there. And the lieutenant came on there with boots and breeches and spurs. And he says, I'm looking for 20 volunteers for the Berlin Honor Guard Horse Platoon. And he said, you have the following qualifications. He listed the whole 20 qualifications.
Right.
And you had to be able to pass the test to go into the officers training school. Because he could pick anybody he wanted.
Right.
You couldn't be more than 6 feet tall, because that didn't look good. Two real tall fellows on a horse doesn't look good.
Right.
So you had to be less than 6 feet, which I was less than 6 feet. And a couple other things. Mm-hmm. And I said, and he had to volunteer in the Army. They say, don't volunteer for anything. I says, you know, that looks interesting. And my father was in the cavalry, in the Austrian cavalry. And I said, you know, I like the idea that I would ride a horse here in Germany, you know. So I volunteered. And it was great.
Mm-hmm. You liked it?
Oh, yeah. We went to Berlin and we had lived in big mansions on Wannsee. And that was the resort area, a big lake. And we would go sailing in the afternoon, riding in the morning. And they had a Hungarian Olympic champion teach us jumping. And we had a Army German colonel. He was a colonel in the German cavalry. He taught us riding. And then we had our own lieutenant. He was there. He lived in this one house, and we had 2 big mansions for the rest of us. And there were 60 of us.
There were 60
and we
of
had
you.
about 150 horses in the stable.
Wow.
And it was a beautiful stable area, belonged to some very rich German. And the army just took it over with all the horses, which was good because those horses probably going to die. The army didn't take care of them. And then I rode for over a year.
Now, did you always ride the same horse?
No.
No.
Every time you ride a horse, they try to give you a different horse every day. So you can't get used to one horse. To know how to really ride, you should be able to ride any horse in the stable.
Right.
So there were some rough horses that you got, and some gentle horses. And we rode every morning. We had breakfast. We had 4 at the table, and we were served breakfast by German prisoners. And it was really very good.
Wow. Wow. Now, we have some pictures. Amy, will you hold the pictures up?
We also, our lieutenant came from a very rich family in Long Island, and they had their own stables. And he thought, he says he said we were troopers and not just soldiers. And we went on fox hunts, and he's like,
You went on fox hunts and stuff too.
A fox hunt without the fox.
Oh, wow.
They call it really a paper chase. They drop pieces of paper and you follow the paper through the woods.
That's pretty cool. Was it pretty? Was the countryside
Oh, yeah.
pretty?
We did that about once a month.
Wow. All right, so I have a picture of you here. I'm going to put it in front of the camera. Okay, let's get it so that it's kind of reflecting here. Oh, gosh, okay. Got a really big reflection because of the glass. Oh, wait a minute. No, let's just, it's terrible. There we go. Okay, so here's a picture of you on a horse. Do you remember the name of this horse?
Probably Gypsy.
Probably Gypsy? Wow, it's a beautiful horse. Were the horses nice?
Oh, some of them were nice, some of them were not.
And then here's another one, I think on the same horse, but a different pose. Tell us a little bit about what you're wearing there.
Right. Breeches and boots and spurs.
Okay, so they call that breeches and boots and spurs.
Yeah.
And then, we have your crop. Look at this.
Oh,
Can
we
you
never
hold
used
that?
the crop. That's just
What was that for? Like,
casual riding. You know, we never used the crop.
never used it when you were working in the military. But how come you have that crop? Who gave it to you?
Just to walk around with it and be a big deal.
Just to walk around and be cool looking with your outfit. Here's another picture of you being pretty cool. Look at this. This is you sitting on the steps of like your barrack, right? Is this what they call it, a barrack where you lived? Or
it's not the barrack.
What is that?
Mansions.
They were mansions.
German mansions.
Oh my gosh.
On this resort. And we had 2 fellas to a room, and each one of us was assigned a servant. They washed our clothes, made our beds.
So you really had a pretty like cushy thing in this here military. You were treated probably better than when you were a kid
We were
at home.
Only 4 of us sat at a table in a dining room, and they served us. And you each had, if you drank beer, there was a bottle of beer on your table for each one of you. Whoever drank beer or soda.
Wow. Now, okay, so tell me, do you have any stories you'd like to talk about, like any memories when you were on your horse or things that happened?
It took about, I would say, 2 weeks before I really could ride comfortably. Do all the, be able to post in the saddle, and sit the saddle and gallop and whatnot. But we think we would go out every day and ride in the Grunewald, which was about the Green Woods. And we come back, and once a week we had jumping, where they teach us jumping, and we would jump. And we would jump our horses up to 6 feet high. And I remember one horse that I had, Chico. It was a great horse. In fact, I call it a rabbit. It took those jumps like crazy. Just flew over him.
Wow, that must have felt
the
cool.
other side, it started to buck. And if you weren't careful, he'd buck you off.
Wow.
So one time I wasn't careful. And he bucked me up, but I didn't go to the horse. I landed in front of the saddle, and I couldn't control the horse. And he took off for the stable and was running right for the doorway. And if a groom was there grooming a horse, German groom, walked the horse in front of the door and blocked the door from the horse going in. If that horse had gone in there, I would have smashed up against the top of the door.
Wow, because the door was like one of those half doors and the top part was closed?
Well, you can walk through like with the horse.
Yeah.
But I was sitting up on a horse.
You were so high.
So I would have hit the top.
You would have hit the top. Oh my gosh.
So that was a clue. I was thrown.
So you think, so horses
I
are,
think I was thrown twice, that's all.
so horses are pretty strong
They
animals,
weigh
right?
1,000 pounds and they can be pretty tough. You gotta know who's boss.
Mm-hmm. They can sense, I think, sometimes when you're
they're
nervous,
afraid.
right?
They're afraid. They know you're afraid.
They know you're afraid, but you got to be really in control.
Yeah.
So, did you ride much after the military?
I didn't ride at all.
Never. That was that you got really good at riding, so good that you were in like exhibitions. Like you would go.
Exhibitions. We would. Lieutenant would have horse shows, and he would invite the Germans, not the Germans. The French were there in Berlin. The English were in Berlin. The Americans were in Berlin. And who else was in Berlin? Somebody else. The Germans, the French, the English, and the Americans. And he would have horse shows. And we would do jumping and stuff like that.
For like a crowd of people to watch.
People.
That they just enjoyed that.
The Russians never entered a horse. Because we let they ate him.
Because they what?
They ate him.
Oh.
But the English, they had some nice horses.
They did.
The French didn't have any horses. So it was usually just the English and the Americans in these horse shows.
Wow.
And the English were very good.
They were very good.
Yeah, they were very good.
Interesting. Let's see. I think you told me a story a long time ago when I was little about standing guard and seeing some lights in the bushes when you were on a horse.
That was when we were standing guard at Rudolf Hess's compound.
Right.
And I was standing guard, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock. And across the way, there was a street, and there was a bunch of trees and a fence. And all of a sudden, I saw like a ghost going flying through the trees. And this is 1 o'clock in the morning, and I looked at it, and I'm the only one there. I said, that looks like a ghost, you know? And I said, I can't understand what this is. And all of a sudden, it stopped. And then a little while later, there it went again. It started on the right side and flipped through the trees back and forth, and then at the end of the block. So I said, this is weird. I'm not going to call the sergeant of the guard. He'll think I'm crazy. I'm seeing a ghost. So a German was walking by, and I called. I said, come over here. I want to talk to you. I says, what is that? He says, oh, that's the cars driving. That's a cemetery. That's the cars driving, and you're just seeing the lights in the trees.
Spooked you. That is pretty funny.
It wasn't a ghost at all.
It was just headlights up in the trees. But you couldn't really hear. It was far enough. You probably couldn't hear the car.
This was 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
All alone in Berlin.
Yeah, that's a little scary, right?
Scary.
So Berlin, when you got there, what did Berlin look like?
Parts of it were just completely destroyed.
Completely destroyed.
Completely destroyed. And the parts that we lived in was not. It was like the very rich parts of Berlin.
And those have been spared from the bombing.
The houses were all up. All the stations were up. It was beautiful.
Right. Now, what did you ever see anything like where Adolf Hitler was?
Yeah, I was in his bunker.
You were in his bunker.
I was in his bunker.
Okay, so what was that like?
I was standing on the spot that he cremated him.
But
today that's a park now.
It's a park.
And they did away with the bunker.
They did away because I think they didn't want to commemorate it, did they?
They wanted to go there.
And so that was the story that he killed himself. And
he
then
had somebody else in there with him, and I don't know if it was Goebbels or one of the other high members of the Nazi party. And that other person had 3 children and his wife.
yeah,
And they took cyanide pills.
and they all died in there.
They all died.
Now there's
But
some
I was in the bunker where he died.
Yeah, and were you there before he died or after he died? After he
Oh,
had died,
after.
he
When
was
I
because
was
he
there.
was by the time you got there, he had already was gone.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then you eventually, how about leave? Did you ever get to explore much of Europe?
Yes, I did. There was one time, in fact, it was in Marburg we were seeing her, and it's one sergeant came in and said, "Anybody here got some furlough time?" And no one was had any furlough time. They all had the furlough time, but when I was shipped from Georgia to Shanks, it was a weekend, so I went home. It didn't count as a furlough.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I have furlough time. He said, would you like to go to Denmark? I said, yeah. He said, what do they call that? You go for rest and relaxation.
R&R. R&R.
It's about a week, and you go for R&R, you relax. And so I said, yeah, I'll go. He said, I'll report here tomorrow morning with enough clothes for a week. And he says, we'll send you to Denmark. So I went to Denmark, and I was there for a week. And it was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Now, did you
very
take a
much.
train there? How'd you get to Denmark?
Took it on a train.
On a train.
We took a train to Denmark.
And then you
we
just kind
stayed
of.
at a hotel in Denmark.
Now, did you go
And
with a couple
Denmark
other?
wasn't bombed at all. It was really a nice place.
It was nice. Did you go with a couple other guys from?
No, I went alone.
All by yourself.
But I took in all the sites. There's a very famous park there, like Disneyland. It's called Tivoli Park. So I went there a couple times. And there was a big fountain outside of Tivoli Park. Beautiful fountain. And I hung around there. A lot of people would hang around and mill around. So I was sitting on the rim of the fountain, and 2 Danish girls came up and they started talking to me. So I started talking to them. They were my age. They were high school kids and seniors. So she says, oh, we shouldn't be talking to you. But nice girls don't talk to soldiers. The American soldiers.
Mm.
So I said, well, I'm a nice guy. So I talked and talked. And then they said, well, we got to go home. It's 5 o'clock. So they went home or something. I think it was a Saturday. So I said, you're going to be here tomorrow? And they said, well, we might come here tomorrow. We might. I said, well, I'll be here. I'll meet you here. I said, well, I'll take you to Tivoli Park.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, oh, I don't think so, We shouldn't be. If our mother saw us going out to soldier, we'd be chastised. So the next day I went there. The only one girl showed up.
Mm.
So we went to Tivoli Park, and I took her there at the hotel. They had a free movie, and it was a real up-to-date movie. It was called The Seventh Veil.
The
It's a
Seventh
great
Veil.
movie. I thought I was going to see a foreign movie. It was an American movie and had English, Danish dubbed it. And
Right.
then, So we went to the movies and we went to lunch there. And then it came to 5 o'clock. She says, you can walk me parts of the way home. I says, okay, good. And we got to a certain place. She says, all right, from here I can't go on anymore because my mother can see me from the apartment.
That was it. Did you ever see her again after that? No.
I never got her. It was just
That was very cute, though. That's
was
kind of an
very good time.
experience. That's neat. That's
In fact,
neat.
I think that's the first time I ever went out on a date, really.
Really, your first
And I was
date.
19.
Ah, that's cute.
But
I
the
like
Seventh
it.
Veil was a real good picture.
Is that good? I gotta look that one up.
Seventh Veil.
We should probably get that, Amy.
It was a psychology picture where each veil dropped off, and she'd be found out who she was.
Oh, very cool. Now, this girl that you met, did she speak English? Were
Oh,
you
very
able-
good.
She spoke really good English.
Both of them spoke
Okay,
English.
very good.
And then there was a boy, a young man I met there too. And we started, I said, I was after I met those girls. And I went to Tivoli Park and they had a roller coaster, a pretty good size.
Mm-hmm.
And first time I went on a roller coaster, I said, they got a nice roller coaster in there. He says, I know a better roller coaster. I says, yeah. He says, way up at the end of Denmark, he says, take a train, go up there, you can see Sweden. They got the biggest roller coaster in Denmark. So the next day I went up there and went on that roller coaster.
Oh, good. And
I
looked
went
at
up on
Sweden.
top, you could see Sweden.
Ah, that's cool. And you
then
remember that, too.
remember that. I remember taking a bus back.
That's pretty cool. So then, was that like your pretty much only like excursion from Berlin, or did you go anywhere else?
Berlin, no, you couldn't leave Berlin. You couldn't go into. You could go into the Berlin sector, but not the zone. All four sectors: the French sector, the English sector, the French, and the four sectors.
Was one of them U.S. occupied?
Yeah,
U.S.?
Yeah, Berlin was divided in the fourth sector.
Right.
Now, all the way around Berlin was the Russian zone, because we had our own part of Germany. The English had a part of Germany.
Right.
So did the French.
Right.
So we could not go into the sector.
You couldn't go
We
into
could stay in the sector. Go to the very
Only had to
sector,
stay in
but
your
you couldn't Go
sector.
into the zone. So one day we were a bunch of us going looking at some of the sites, and we were on a lake. It might have been along Lake Wannsee, and a ferry came by and was taking people places. He said, "Where's that ferry going?" He said, "It goes to Potsdam," and that was one of the places that Roosevelt stopped in with the powers to talk about it. I said, "Let's go to Potsdam." So we all got on a ferry, about four of us, and went to Potsdam. And we're walking around in Potsdam, and we didn't realize that we were in the Russian zone.
Ooh.
And we could have been taken in by the Russians. So Russian soldiers came over. And fortunately, I could speak a little Polish, and it's similar. So he told us, he says, "You guys better get back on a ferry." He said, "I could technically arrest you now and bring you in and arrest you for being in the zone."
Whoa.
So we said, "Thank you very much."
And you went.
Thank you very much. We're back on a ferry.
Right. Wow.
So we could have been arrested in the Russian zone.
Wow.
But we didn't know any better.
Right.
But there was nothing going on between the Russians and the
Right.
rest of us.
Now, how about the money you made in the military? What did you do with it?
The money made in the military and in Europe, I sent all of it home.
Sent it home to your mom.
Yeah,
And did you, I think you told me once too, they would give you like a cigarette ration?
Well, we dealt on the black market.
Okay.
In the black market in Berlin, you got 2,000 marks for a carton of cigarettes. But if you were in the American zone, you only got 200 marks. So Berlin was a great place to be for the black market.
Right.
Because you could buy it. I used to buy cameras and just anything I wanted.
Right.
But they didn't have much to sell because the Germans already sold a lot of stuff to our soldiers already.
Right,
So
right.
I had a couple of cameras and stuff. I always had 4,000 or 5,000 marks. And I would mostly give it to the Germans.
Mm-hmm.
The fellas that worked, like I had a groom that groomed my horses. So I gave him money.
Tell me, I remember you gave a groom
Yeah, one of the
something
grooms was-
for a very specific
We
thing.
would pull guard duty on a horse and just walk around the stables on guard duty, and we had a 45. And one night about 8 o'clock, I was just walking guard duty, and one of my German groom, he was walking around because they stayed there. I think must have slept in the stable. And I start talking to him, and he says, "You go out with the girls a lot, where was my age?" I says, "Some, I see some of them. I didn't go very much with them because they were who you told that they were full of disease,
Yeah.
Stay away. You're better if you stay away from them." So more or less stay away from them. And he says, "Well, I don't go with girls. I can't go out with girls." I says, "Why?" He says, "Look at my teeth." And he showed me his were knocked out. He didn't have any teeth here. He said, "I don't look very good and they don't like me and my teeth." I said, "Well, can't you get them fixed?" He says, "It's too much money. It's 1,500 marks to get my teeth fixed." I said, 1,500 marks? I said, I'll give you that tomorrow. You want to come in right in the morning, so I'll give you 1,500 marks and get your teeth fixed. He says, "You give me 1,500 marks?" I says, "Yeah, I'll give you 1,500 marks. You get your teeth fixed." He said, "All right, you'll do it." I said, so the next day, I had like 4,000 marks, so I took 2,000 of it.
Mm-hmm.
Under my pillow, I used to give we had servants that I used to give money to.
Mm-hmm.
You throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there, and he was there. He brought my horse out. I said, here. I said, I don't have 1,500 marks. Here's 2,000. He says, wow. He says, give me your name and address. He says, I'll send you a picture because next week I was going home. So I'll send you a picture of my teeth. I want to send you a picture of my teeth. I never did.
You never got a picture, but I bet he got him
I
fixed.
never gave him my address.
Oh, you didn't even give it to him?
No. I
No.
get your teeth fixed. I gave most of the money away.
Right. Because was it like not going to be useful when you got back to the U.S., the marks? Could you not really?
You couldn't change them.
You couldn't change it.
No.
So, and then you had bought every kind
It
of.
was unlawful to do that.
Oh, it was because it was kind of black
See,
market money.
If you had a lot of one cigarette home, we get you a whole meal in
Right.
a restaurant.
Wow.
One cigarette.
Wow.
And I got to know some people. One fellow knew a girl in Omgus, military government, and they were girls that worked there, and they all spoke English. And I met a couple of fellows there. He would take us to meet the girls, and then we'd go to the people's houses and have dinners. And they invited you over there because they knew you were going to leave some cigarettes, some coffee. And the dinner was usually, I went a couple of times, the dinner was mashed potatoes and gravy. That's it.
That's
Nothing
it.
else.
Whoa.
And the gravy was made out of mushrooms.
Mushroom.
And most of us didn't eat, and they'd say, well, what did you eat today? What did you eat today? And we'd tell them. And then we'd bring chocolate bars and all of the stuff that we got from the PX, some food. And then we'd leave a pack of cigarettes. A pack of cigarettes was like gold.
Wow.
It was worth 200 marks. And they'd only make a couple hundred marks a week, if that. And so we just threw money around a lot because you couldn't buy anything with it. I did buy a diamond, probably was glass, and I sent it home in an envelope, and we got it. It looked like about a carat. I never told anybody this, and I got home, and sure enough, it was there,
Right.
in the envelope. So I took that diamond and I didn't even tell anybody about it. I put that diamond in a coat pocket, and it disappeared.
So you don't
I
know.
threw the coat away, or I lost it. It probably was a piece of glass.
You never know.
Because they were always trying to pull scams on you, selling you junk, especially
Right.
jewelry or a watch that didn't work. So there isn't much you could buy, but I did have a very good camera, and I didn't take that with me for some reason. I gave it to somebody.
Right. All right. So now, when you were done, when it became you had fulfilled your duty and you got honorably discharged,
Right.
how did you get back?
On a boat.
On a boat. So did you first go over back to France?
No, we left from, I think went to Bremerhaven.
Went to where?
Bremerhaven.
What's
It's
that?
a port in Germany.
A port in Germany. Okay.
And then they put us on the boat.
Back to the U.S.
And I remember on the boat, we were getting close to the United States, and they could get the radio stations. And they were playing the songs that were popular at the time.
Right.
And we couldn't recognize any of them.
Wow.
Because they didn't get over to Germany.
They didn't get over
so
there.
we heard all these great songs. We really have been thrilled with it.
But for like almost 2 years, you hadn't heard any of those songs.
No.
Wow. And so then you get over to like New York City or whatever, and
New York State, and they sent us to Fort Dix.
oh, you went back to Fort Dix,
Then I was discharged from Fort Dix.
and then you got discharged, and then did you just go back home to Newark?
I just went back home to Newark, and Teddy was home. He got discharged earlier than me.
Right.
Teddy. He was, I think, 3 or 4 years older than me. So he told me, he said, "What are you going to do, Amiel?" I said, "Well, I'm going to go. I always wanted to be a chemist. I said, I'm going to go to be a chemist and go to Seton Hall. Seton Hall is right in back of us. We could almost walk there.
From your house.
Our house is in South Orange, and we lived right on North. So he said, well, I'll go with you. I said, well, I'm going to take chemistry. So I'll take chemistry too. So we both went to Seton Hall.
And you did that on the GI Bill.
We did that on the GI Bill. And we both became
Which was
chemists.
pretty amazing, because do you think you would have been able to go to college?
When I was drafted, it changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
My life was completely changed.
Right.
Because I was able to go to college. I was able to be a chemist. And I had a different life.
Right. So you had
I
a
was
pretty.
very fortunate. I owe a lot to the United States, and I like the Army.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And you were
they're reasonable.
fortunate to be in a time when there wasn't a lot of fighting, and you
Oh,
were
there's no
you were
fighting
very
at all.
lucky. But your
Never
two
fi-
older
I never
brothers.
fired a gun in Berlin.
Let's talk about your two older brothers, though, because they were
were
also
early.
drafted, but they were
Johnny
older.
was one of the first ones drafted, and he became a navigator in the Air Force. And then
And he
Teddy-
did go. Did he go on some missions?
Yeah, he was on a couple missions. He
Right.
got bombs in Austria, I think. Then Teddy got in. He became a tail gunner, but he never went overseas.
He never did go overseas.
Alfred, I'm a little confused about Alfred. He was drafted,
Mm-hmm.
and he went. I think he was in Korea once, and then he was in Germany once. I couldn't figure out.
But he was younger than
But
you.
he was younger than me.
So he might have been part of the Korean War.
I think it was the Korean War he went.
Okay. Wow.
But he didn't see any battle. He didn't any fighting at
So
all.
all of you were
None of us
Rel-
saw combat
except Johnny.
dropping, being a navigator in an airplane.
and dropping bombs over. You think Austria?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, it was Austria.
Yeah.
I know. He told us that.
Wow.
But he says that it bothered him a lot that he would be killing people.
Yeah. I think that
With
would be
his
very
bomb.
tough. That would be very tough. All right, Amy, what do you think? Do we have any more questions? I think we've pretty much got your. Anything else you can think of from your military experience you would want to pass on?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so.
Good.
If I come up with something, I'll let you know.
Okay, good. All right. Thanks, Dad. That was really interesting.
Good.
Okay.